Did you know the library is full of dirt? Join us this summer as we get the dirt, discovering interesting reading trails. There will be trails about pets, music, monster trucks, and more. Today's Get the Dirt is about different types of flutes. Flutes play many different types of music. Here are some different types of music you might hear on a flute. This song is called Cardiff by the Sea. It is a Welsh folk song. Maybe you've heard this next song before. See if you can guess what song it is. Yes, the words to that song are, "Down by the station early in the morning." Here's one more song you probably know. Song was that? Yes, it was "Merrily We Roll Along." Oh, you're saying I'm wrong? You're saying that it is "Mary Had a Little Lamb." Let's get the dirt on this mystery. The same tune is used for both "Mary Had a Little Lamb" and "Merrily We Roll Along." When two songs have the same tune with different words, we call that a piggyback song. Here's another piggyback song. See if you can tell me the 3 songs that are used with this tune. Song did you hear? Yes. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, Baba, black sheep, have you any wool? Great job naming that tune. Piggyback songs are a great way for you to learn and remember information you may need for life, a job, or school. For instance, when I was learning the Bill of Rights, I learned the point of each of the first 10 amendments to our United States Constitution by learning them to the tune of, well, you're going to tell me what the tune is. The First Amendment guarantees religion, speech, and press, petition and assembly too. The Second Amendment guarantees a right to bear arms, religion, speech, and press, petition and assembly too. The Third Amendment guarantees, and on through the first 10 amendments to our Constitution. Did you recognize the tune? Yes, it was to the 12 Days of Christmas. So, how does the Bill of Rights song end? You'll have to do a bit of digging yourself to get the dirt on it. Isn't that a fun way to learn and remember? Another piggyback song that's fun is the periodic table to the tune of Can Can. Be sure to get the dirt on how to remember the elements. Now that we got the dirt on piggyback songs, I mentioned earlier that we will be learning about different types of flutes. Our first book today is about the different types of flutes. It is called Flutes. It is written by Barry Carson Turner and illustrated by John C. Let's look at the spine. Is this book fiction or nonfiction? Very good. Those numbers tell us this book is nonfiction. Musical instruments are played in every country of the world. There are so many thousands of different instruments in all shapes and sizes. They are often grouped into 4 families: strings, brass, percussion, and woodwinds. Brass and percussion instruments are blown to make their sound. Percussion instruments are struck, shaken, or scraped to make their sound. Stringed instruments make sounds when their strings vibrate. This book is about flutes, which are part of the woodwind family. Some flutes, like the piccolo and the soling, are played in orchestras. Others, like the fife, are played in marching bands. You will often hear the sports whistle on the football field. This book tells us about 18 different kinds of flutes from around the world. There's a picture of each instrument and a photograph of a performer playing it. On pages 30 and 31, you'll find an index. Do you know what an index is? An index is a list of words that gives you definitions for harder words. Or it's also called a glossary. Flute. The flute is an important instrument to the orchestra. Flutes were once made of wood, but today they are usually made of metal or even gold or silver. The mouthpiece is at one end of the instrument, where the metal is shaped to make a resting place for the lips. The musician blows across, not into, the blowhole. Each finger hole is covered by a small metal cap called a key. The player makes different notes by pressing down on the keys. The flute is built into 3 sections called joints so that the instrument can be taken apart and carried easily. Flute players are called flautists. Bosun's pipe. This tiny metal pipe is just a little over 1 1/4 inches. The player blows into the mouthpiece. The air rushes through the pipe and hits the edge of a small hole, creating a loud whistling sound. The player holds the bosun's pipe in one hand. He opens or closes his hand to make different sounds. The D has been played in China for more than 1,000 years. The instrument is made from bamboo and is blown through a hole near the end. A thin piece of tissue paper is pasted over one of its holes. When a flute is blown, the paper adds a buzzing sound. The shakuhachi is a Japanese flute and is traditionally played by men. It is made of bamboo, which is cut near the bottom of the plant, where the stem becomes wider. This construction gives the instrument its curved shape. The player rests the instrument on his lower lip and blows against a small notch cut in the side of the tube. The shakuhachi makes a beautiful, clear sound. At one time, the shakuhachi was played by priests, who also used the instrument as a weapon of self-defense. The instrument is still popular in Japan today and is played in classical and folk music. Fife. The fife is usually made of wood. The fife is held the same way as the flute, out to the side of the player. The instrument has a high, shrill sound. The player makes different notes by covering the finger holes. The finger holes on some fifes are covered by metal caps called keys. The piccolo is a small flute. It is made of wood, metal, or a combination of both. It plays the highest notes in the orchestra and makes a loud sound that can be heard above all the other instruments. Small metal caps called keys cover the finger holes. The player makes different notes by pressing down on the keys. Nose flute. Nose flutes are usually played from the top like the recorder. They are held against the nose and blown through one nostril while the thumb holds the other nostril closed. Suling. The suling is made from bamboo and comes from Indonesia. The instrument is sometimes called a ring flute because it has a ring of palm leaves wrapped around the blowhole. The ring of leaves helps to direct the player's breath into the hole. Some players can blow air out and breathe it in at the same time. This is called circular breathing. Recorder family. Recorders have been played in Europe for hundreds of years. Recorders have a soft tone and must be blown very gently. They sound better played in small groups or as a solo instrument, rather than in an orchestra. There are 5 instruments in the recorder family. The highest is the soprano. This is a tiny recorder with finger holes very close together. The desiccant is the next higher instrument. The treble and tenor are bigger and lower sounding recorders. The large bass recorder plays very low notes. It is so big that it has an extra metal tube called a crook that helps the player reach the finger holes. Swanee whistle has no finger holes. Instead, the different notes are made by a plunger held in the right hand. As the plunger is pushed in, the notes slide together. As the plunger is pulled out, the notes slide lower. No one knows how the Swanee whistle got its name. Most flutes are tube-shaped, but the nightingale is shaped like a bird. First, the instrument is filled with water. Then the player blows down a spout in the bird's tail. The air bubbles through the water and escapes through a small hole in the bird's head. Panpipes. Panpipes have been played for thousands of years. Panpipes are found in many parts of the world and can be made of reed, bamboo, wood, stone, or pottery. Each pipe in a set of panpipes is a tiny flute that plays just one note. The pipes that make up the instrument are of different lengths. The long pipes make low sounds, and the short pipes make high sounds. The pipes are tied together in a bundle, or made into a raft shape. The tin whistle is much like the recorder, but the tin whistle is made of metal. This whistle has only 6 finger holes and no thumb hole. In the past, the tin whistle was often played by street musicians. People would give the player a penny, which is why the tin whistle is also called a penny whistle. The sports whistle is blown through a short, wide tube called a duct. At the other end of the tube, the air hits the sharp edge of a long, narrow hole in the metal body. The whistle makes a loud, shrill sound. A small clay pea inside the whistle adds a warble to the tone. Ocarina. Most flutes are shaped like a tube, but the ocarina is usually round or shaped like a long egg. Small ocarinas make high sounds and large ocarinas make low sounds. Some ocarinas have a tuning plunger. When this is pulled out or pushed in, it makes the instrument sound higher or lower. Ney. The ney is a very old instrument played centuries ago in ancient Egypt. Today, the ney is still played in Egypt and other nearby countries. The ney is made from bamboo, wood, or metal, and the longest neys are about 3 feet long. The players make different notes by covering the finger holes and moving their lips as they blow. The double flute is 2 instruments in one. Sometimes these 2 flute pipes are carved from one piece of wood. Sometimes they are bound together. Musicians must be able to breathe deeply, as the instrument takes more breath to play than a single flute. Bass flutes are made of metal. The instrument is very heavy and is so long that it has to be wrapped around one end so that the player can reach all the finger holes. Each finger hole is covered by a small metal cap called a key. Players make different notes by pressing down on the keys. The blowhole has a lip rest, which allows players to rest their lips comfortably as they play. Players blow against the edge of the blowhole, not into it. The bass flute is played in an orchestra, but composers don't write music for this instrument very often. You can find more nonfiction books about flutes in the 788 section at the library. Our next book is also nonfiction. It is called What in the World is a Flute? The author is Mary Elizabeth Saltzman. musical instrument. One kind of flute is a Western concert flute. Do you see the Western concert flute on our table? Yep, there's our Western concert flute. It is held sideways. The flute player blows across the hole near one end. He or she presses the keys to play different notes. A recorder is a kind of flute. It can be made of wood or plastic. A recorder has holes on its side. The recorder player blows into the end of the recorder. He or she covers some of the holes to play different notes. An ocarina is a kind of flute. Ocarina is pronounced ocarina. Ocarinas come in many different shapes. Each one has a hole for blowing into. It is often at the end of a bump. There are also other holes in an ocarina. The ocarina player covers some of these to play different notes. A panpipe is a kind of flute. It has 5 or more pipes tied together. Each one is a different length. The pipe player blows across the ends of the pipes. Each pipe makes a different note. Let's play the flute. Sarah practices a song on the concert flute. The sheet music tells her which notes to play. Ryan is playing an ocarina. He learned how to play it from his grandfather. Jan has a recorder lesson every Friday. She and her teacher play a song together. Tim is playing a panpipe. His panpipe has 11 pipes. Did you know that you could get a job playing an instrument in the flute family? You could play in an orchestra or a band. But do you remember first how these flutes are played? Yes, they are played. Brass instruments are played by blowing air through your buzz lips. The tighter your lips, the higher the pitch. Flutes are played by blowing air into a mouthpiece, and the type of flute you are playing determines how you blow the air. Today's flute is blown by blowing air across the mouthpiece like you would a pop bottle. The faster you blow, the higher the pitch. Did you know that you could get a job playing an instrument in the flute family? You could play in an orchestra. In a band. You could write flute music or teach music for flutes or become a music teacher. There are so many jobs and careers with the flute family. So keep practicing and don't forget to pass the music down. Next we'll read a book about a musical mouse. It is called Geraldine the Music Mouse. It is fiction. It is written and illustrated by Leo Liani. Where would we find Geraldine the Music Mouse? Yes, in the fiction section of the library under LIO. Geraldine had never heard music before. Noises, yes, many noises. The voices of people, the slamming of doors, the barking of dogs, the rushing of water, the meows of cats in the courtyard, and of course, the soft peeping of mice. But music, never. Then one morning, in the pantry of the empty house where Geraldine lived, she discovered an enormous piece of Parmesan cheese, the largest she had ever seen. Eagerly, she took a little bite from it. It was delicious. But how would she be able to take it with her to her secret hideout in the barn? She ran to her friends who lived next door and told them about her discovery. "If you help me carry it to my hideout," she said, "I'll give each of you a big piece." Her friends, who loved cheese, happily agreed. "Let's go," they said. Oh, they went. "It's enormous, it's gigantic, it's immense, it's fantastic," they shouted with joy when they saw the piece of cheese. They pushed and pulled and tugged, and finally they managed to carry it to Geraldine's hideout. Then Geraldine climbed up to the very top of the cheese. She dug her little teeth into it and pulled away crumb after crumb, chunk after chunk. As her friends carried away their cheese tidbits, Geraldine peered in amazement at the hole she'd gnawed. There she saw the shapes of two enormous ears. Cheese ears. As soon as her friends were gone, she went back to work again, nibbling away at the cheese as fast as she could. When she was halfway through, Geraldine climbed down to have a look at the forms she had freed. She could hardly believe what she saw. The ears were those of a giant mouse, still partially hidden. To its puckered lips, it held a flute. Geraldine gnawed and gnawed till she had finally uncovered the entire mouse. Then she realized that the flute was really the tip of the mouse's tail. Astonished, exhausted, and a little frightened, Geraldine stared at the cheese statue. With the dimming of the last daylight, she fell asleep. Suddenly, she was awakened by some strange sounds. They seemed to come from the direction of the mouse's flute. She jumped to her feet. As it grew darker, the sounds became clearer and more melodious until they seemed to move lightly through the air like invisible strings of silver and gold. Never had Geraldine heard anything so beautiful. Music, she thought. This must be music. She listened all through the night until the first glow of dawn filtered through the dusty window panes. But as the cheese mouse was slowly bathed in light, the music became softer till it stopped altogether. "Play, play," Geraldine begged. "Play some more." But not a sound came from the flute. "Will it ever play again?" Geraldine thought, as she gobbled up some of the crumbs that lay around. When the next evening approached, it brought the answer to her question. The music began faintly at dusk and lasted until the break of day. And so night after night again, the cheese flautist played for Geraldine. She learned to recognize the melodies, and even in daylight they lingered in her ears. Then one day, she met her friends on the street. They were desperate. "Geraldine," they said, "we have no more food, and there's none to be found anywhere. You must share your cheese with us." "That is not possible," Geraldine shouted. "Why?" asked the others angrily. Because it is music." Her friends looked at Geraldine, surprised. "What is music?" they all asked together. For a moment, Geraldine stood deep in thought. Then she took a step backward, solemnly lifted the tip of her tail to her puckered lips, took a deep breath, and blew. She blew hard. She puffed, she peeped, she tweeted, she screeched. Her friends laughed until their hungry little tummies hurt. Then a low, soft, beautiful whistle came from Geraldine's lips. One of the melodies of the cheese flute echoed in the air. The little mice held their breath in amazement. Other mice came to hear the miracle. When the tune was to an end, Gregory, the oldest of the group, whispered, "If that is music, Geraldine, you are right. We cannot eat the cheese." "No," said Geraldine joyfully. "Now we can eat the cheese, because now the music is in me." With that, they all followed Geraldine to the barn. And while Geraldine whistled the gayest of tunes, they ate cheese to their tummies' content. Now, it was interesting what I found in this book. I don't know if any of you have ever watched The Lord of the Rings, but on the soundtrack, this man named James Galway is one who plays flute a lot on the soundtrack. So if you listen to the soundtrack, you can hear a flute. Do you have a favorite type of flute? What was your favorite song on flute? Next week, we'll get the dirt about a member of the flute family. Here are some clues for you. It's a member of the flute family, can be made of various materials, and many people think it's just a kid's instrument. Here are some of the flute family pictures to help you get the dirt on what next week's instrument might be. Until then, be sure to get the dirt at your local library.